Every journey begins with a single step, and every story holds its own meaning. Here on Fanfiction Story, we bring you tales that inspire, move your heart, and maybe change the way you see the world. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if you enjoy stories like this. Now let's begin the journey. October 20th, Konoha year 48. Fallen leaves, accompanied by the patter of rain, clung to the ground. Inside the hospital room, filled with the smell of disinfectant, a pair of dark eyes silently watched through the window at the muddy, withered yellow on the ground outside. Kakashi Hatake. He died. He died during the night of the Nine Tails attack. A tailed beast ball struck Konoha's shelter. The original owner of this body tried to block that tailed beast ball with an earth-style wall to protect the villagers. Evidently, he failed. The future sixth Hokage died prematurely. Now standing here was merely a wanderer from an unknown place. Is this world a timeline similar to a parallel universe? The Wanderer? No, Kakashi subconsciously reached out and gently touched the bandage over his left eye. Kamui Mangekyo Sharingan. The Mangekyo Sharingan at the pinnacle of the ninja world. It was pierced by a steel bar from an unknown wall. The damage was irreparable, even with medical ninjutsu. Kakashi, someone's here to see you. A gentle call from the nurse came from outside the slightly ajar door. Ah, please come in. Kakashi's expression remained unchanged as he responded to the nurse. No sooner had he spoken than a green whirlwind burst into the room. Kakashi, accompanied by a cry like a wild beast. Before Kakashi could react, the person embraced the white-haired youth's body, weeping profusely. Might Guy emotional fluctuation +1. Chakra +1%. Current chakra 101%. Waya. Kakashi, it's so good that you're okay. Looking at the watermelon-headed youth hugging him, Kakashi twitched his lips. Might Guy, I'm fine. If you don't let go, I probably won't be. Facing Might Guy's enthusiasm, Kakashi's exposed dark eyes revealed a hint of helplessness. Perhaps he would have a headache in the future, figuring out how to get along with this rival for life. Waya. Kakashi, I'll wait for you to recover for our 157th duel. Might Guy immediately wiped away his tears and released Kakashi, carefully patting Kakashi's shoulder as if he were a precious, fragile item, and after confirming his dear friend was all right, he continued to weep profusely. Kakashi's brows furrowed slightly with helplessness at this sight. Might Guy, don't be like that. Kakashi, he. A clear voice came from behind Might Guy. Besides Might Guy, Asuma Sarutobi and Kurenai Yuhai had also come together to visit their talented peer. After all, when the tailed beast ball struck, they were also in the shelter, and if Kakashi hadn't risked his life to resist and alter the tailed beast ball's trajectory, they too would have perished that night. It was just that, Kurenai Yuhai's words got stuck halfway through. A pair of gentle, crimson eyes stared blankly at the white-haired youth sitting on the bed. Kurenai Yuhai, emotional fluctuation +1. Chakra +1%. Current chakra 102%. Kurenai. Seeing the somewhat dazed girl, Kakashi gently spoke to remind her. Might Guy, don't be like that. What if Kakashi's injuries worsen? She blinked, and as time passed, a blush subtly appeared on the girl's face. The black-haired girl, somewhat shy and flustered, averted her gaze and began to scold the bewildered Might Guy. Her words went from initial fluster to exasperation, then grew softer and softer. Finally, they were barely audible. I didn't mean it like that. The girl realized her gaffe and quickly waved her hand at Might Guy, saying, Kurenai cares about her comrade. She was just anxious for a moment. Might Guy, don't take it to heart. Facing Kurenai's embarrassment, Kakashi kindly looked at the still clueless Might Guy. Kakashi understood Kurenai's slip-up. After all, this face was simply too handsome. For women, it was almost an existence that broke the rules. One could say he was in no way inferior to the future Sasuke Uchiha. Kurenai Yuhai, emotional fluctuation +1. Chakra +1%. Current chakra 103%. Well that, Kakashi. You take care of yourself first. I have something to do. I'll come see you in a couple of days. Kurenai Yuhai's face was slightly flushed, and ignoring the subtle oddity on Asuma Sarutobai's face beside her, she left the hospital room as if fleeing. Well, Kakashi, I'll be going too. I'll accompany you for rehabilitation training when you're discharged. The mature-looking black-haired youth looked at the serene Kakashi sitting on the hospital bed, a hint of sourness in his words. Asuma originally had many things he wanted to talk about with Kakashi, but Kurenai's behavior made him swallow all those words. Oh right, Kakashi needs rest now. Kakashi, I'm waiting for our 157th duel. Might Guy gave Kakashi a thumbs up, revealing his signature bright white teeth, which made Kakashi instinctively give him a deadpan look. Watching the once lively hospital room fall silent again, the white-haired youth's brows furrowed slightly. Emotion fluctuation. Ever since Might Guy and the other two entered the room, 3 prompts had appeared in his mind. Kakashi subtly suppressed his inner astonishment. Only now did he ponder it carefully. But no matter how Kakashi investigated, the prompts that had appeared earlier never sounded again. Or rather, did he need to do something to others for those so-called prompts to appear again? And a 1% increase in chakra. Kakashi tried to sense his chakra, but the increase was too small. Kakashi tried for a long time before confirming that his chakra had indeed increased. After all, there was almost no difference between 100 grains of rice and 103 grains of rice. Even with 3 more grains, it wouldn't be enough to feel full. Kakashi. Did Asuma and the others leave? Just then a clear voice sounded. A short-haired girl with a clear face, wearing a white coat, walked in, holding a file that looked like a document. Is that Shizune? Kakashi said, somewhat uncertain, relying on the memories in his mind. Ah, Kakashi still remembers me. That's truly delightful. Shizune came to Kakashi, holding the file, and spoke with a gentle smile. 2 years ago, after the 4th Hokage Minato Namikaze took office, she and Lady Tsunade left Konoha village. Hearing that the 9 Tails had broken its seal, Lady Tsunade hurriedly brought her back to Konoha. Kakashi, your Sharingan was lost in this chaos. Shizune looked at Kakashi with some hesitation and handed him the file she was holding. If you don't get a new transplant, it will significantly impact your daily life and strength. Of course, it definitely won't be as good as a Sharingan. Many medical ninjas have signed up for organ donation. Even I hope that after I die, my body can help my comrades continue living. The black-haired girl calmly gazed at Kakashi, who was sitting on the hospital bed, flipping through a file. And on the first page of the file in Kakashi's hand was someone he knew all too well. Of course, that was for the old Kakashi. The photo in the file showed a brown-haired girl with purple markings on her cheeks, smiling sweetly. Rin Nohara. Perhaps because of the affection Abido once showed you by giving you his light, Rin applied to donate her eyes after her death when she returned to Konoha. Kakashi, don't put too much psychological pressure on yourself over this. Shizune looked at the silent Kakashi and couldn't help but offer a soft word of comfort. Kakashi wasn't burdened by it. He was thinking about something else. Just moments ago, Kurenai Yuhai had provided him with 2% chakra. And if he were to replace his eye with that of his former teammate, Abaido Uchiha seemed to have been very fond of Rin Nohara. If they were to meet, the scene would probably be quite interesting. Forgive Kakashi for this mischievous thought. After all, in a situation like that, anyone would want to see it right. Shizune is really kind. Kakashi now lifted his head to look at the familiar, yet unfamiliar black-haired girl in front of him. This not really. Shizune's emotional fluctuation +1. Chakra +1%. Current chakra 104%. Perhaps because Kakashi's face was too captivating, or because Shizune was too thin-skinned, the black-haired girl before him seemed rather flustered. Indeed, causing emotional fluctuations in others was what triggered his certain ability. After confirming his ability, Kakashi ignored the prompt in his mind, closed the file in his hand, handed it to Shizune, and said with a serious expression, "Please transplant Rin's eyes into me." No matter what, Kakashi would never say something like, "Being one-eyed is a man's romance." Hearing Kakashi's response, Shizune secretly let out a sigh of relief. She had thought Kakashi might refuse the new eye transplant. After all, having endured a rough childhood, he was just about to emerge from that endless darkness, only to face the sacrifice of his teacher once again. Kakashi. The girl named Shizune took the file from Kakashi, her expression a bit hesitant, a hint of pity flashing in her eyes, as if she wanted to say something but changed her words at the last moment. "Okay, I'll notify the medical staff to replace Kakashi's eye right away. But the hospital is really busy right now, so Kakashi will probably have to wait a few days." Kakashi naturally had no objections to that. As Shizune left, she glanced back at Kakashi, ultimately not voicing the words in her heart. Perhaps this was for the best. However, Kakashi seemed to have changed a little. After Shizune departed, only Kakashi remained in the ward. Looking out the window, Kakashi felt moved by what had just happened. Rin Nohara's eyes, He reached out and gently stroked the empty eye socket, as if through the white gauze he was touching the void within. And his own abundant chakra. In Kakashi's memory, it had been a long time since he'd felt such a surplus of chakra. He could also finally shake off that nickname full of complaints, the chakra measuring unit. The Sharingan had suppressed Kakashi's talent, although losing the Kamui Mangekyo Sharingan was a huge pity. But perhaps for Kakashi himself, an ordinary eye was the best one. Moreover, for both Kakashi and Abaido Uchiha, the eye of this former teammate was by no means ordinary. But if he lost his Sharingan, what about Chidori? As Kakashi's self-created S-rank ninjutsu, the Sharingan's importance to Chidori was undeniable. Chidori's excessively fast speed required extremely strong dynamic vision for the body to keep up, and the Sharingan perfectly compensated for that. Thinking of this, Kakashi rubbed his head, feeling a headache coming on. He couldn't worry about that much now. Having experienced the feeling of abundant chakra in his body, Kakashi absolutely did not want to equip himself with another Sharingan. Moreover, if he did that, the Uchiha clan would probably explode. Kakashi waited in the ward for 3 days. During those 3 days, Kakashi thoroughly researched the inexplicable prompts in his mind. He had confirmed it. This was a golden finger that had no emotions, only increasing chakra. And the increase was pitifully small. 1%. Kakashi didn't mind this. 1% was fine. It was better than nothing. He understood the principle of accumulating little by little, like drops of water forming a stream. Without the suppression of the Sharingan, Kakashi's chakra reserves were roughly twice what they had been before. That is 2 Kakashi units of chakra. Kakashi was a bit speechless. Did he just use himself as a unit of measurement? Ignoring Kakashi's internal self-mockery, Today was the day he would get his new eyes. Shizune arrived at the ward on time with a medical staff member. Replacing eyeballs was extremely simple for ninjas, who possessed superhuman abilities. They didn't even need to enter an operating room. It could be done right in the ward. Currently, the hospital had a large number of injured, and the operating rooms were almost constantly in use. Naturally, there was no need to occupy a valuable operating room for this medical procedure, which wasn't even considered minor surgery. Kakashi, have you been waiting long? Don't worry, it'll be over quickly. Lie down on the bed first. Shizune put on a pair of medical gloves and prepared the instruments. Okay. Kakashi subconsciously replied, but immediately realized something was off. From Shizune's demeanor, was she planning to perform the procedure herself? Although Shizune's medical skills would indeed be trustworthy in the future, she was the same age as him now, 14. How many years had she been Tsunede's apprentice? Before Kakashi could voice his concerns, the medical staff member had already reached out and placed a hand on Kakashi's forehead. As a verdant green light emanated from the medical staff member's hand, Kakashi felt a wave of drowsiness wash over him. At this moment, he couldn't help but want to complain. As expected of a ninja. With this technique, there was no need for anesthetic. The next second, Kakashi fell into a deep sleep. Shizune also disinfected herself, preparing to begin the eye replacement for Kakashi. When Kakashi woke up, it was 15 minutes later. He groggily opened his eyes to see Shizune, already packing up and preparing to leave. Is it done? This. Kakashi subconsciously spoke, but his words trailed off. There was no need to ask further. Light flooded into his eyes. Clean, clear, and bright, like black gemstones embedded in their sockets. Kakashi gazed at his own eyes in the mirror. They were identical. If there was one difference, it was that Rin's eye seemed to carry a hint of joyful anticipation. Perhaps it was an illusion. How could a single eye carry an emotion like joyful anticipation? How do you feel? Shizune, who had already packed up her things, looked at Kakashi as he examined his eyes in the mirror, flashing him a beaming smile. It's just like my own eye, Kakashi replied truthfully. That's good to hear, now I can rest easy. I'll be heading out. Shizune was very busy. As Tsunede's senior apprentice, she'd been thrown into the hospital by Tsunade on her very first day back in the village. Every day, she rushed between various injured patients. When can I be discharged? After a few days of recuperation, Kakashi felt that while he wasn't fully recovered, he was about 70 to 80% better. Rather than staying cooped up in the hospital room, it would be better to head home early. Will you be okay on your own, Kakashi? Shizune, who was about to leave, stopped in her tracks upon hearing this and looked at the white-haired young man with some hesitation. No problem. Kakashi nodded. In that case, you can be discharged at any time. Shizune nodded. Kakashi could have been discharged 3 days ago. She'd considered his past experiences and his current grief over the loss of his teacher, fearing he might do something rash, so she hadn't brought up his discharge. Now, Rin's eye had restored Kakashi's sight. No matter what, Kakashi would never do anything irrational while bearing this eye. Thank you so much. Kakashi spoke from the bottom of his heart. Although it had only been a few short days, Kakashi truly disliked staying in the hospital. It seems you don't like it here. That's true, after all, this is a place filled with death and sorrow. Perhaps Kakashi's expression was too obvious. Shizune smiled helplessly. Shizune's emotional fluctuation +1. Chakra +1%. That's not it. The hospital is a place of salvation. It is the first an only battleground where the living fight against death. And as a medical ninja, Shizune, you're also a hero fighting against the Shinigami. Kakashi shook his head. Shizune's emotional fluctuation +1. Chakra +1%. Is that so? Then I'll take your kind words. Shizune smiled calmly, waved her hand, and left the ward. But the prompt in Kakashi's mind indicated that Shizune was not as calm as she appeared. After Shizune left, Kakashi efficiently completed the discharge procedures. He left the ward alone, carrying his few belongings. Kakashi-kun, please take care of yourself, Tilda. So handsome. Kakashi-kun, are you being discharged? On the way, a nurse enthusiastically greeted Kakashi, but after only a few words, she was pulled back by the irritable head nurse, who tugged her ear. There are so many injured patients, and you have time to be infatuated here. I think you all feel your workload isn't heavy enough, don't you? Kakashi, who was about to respond to the nurse, showed a hint of helplessness at this sight. Jiajiazi's emotional fluctuation +1. Chakra +1%. That prompt appeared in his mind once again. All right, I get it. Kakashi glanced at the poor nurse and directly ignored the prompt that triggered the buff in his mind. Leaving the hospital, Kakashi walked alone through the streets of Konoha. Devastated. Only that word could describe it. Although the nine-tailed beast ball had been teleported away by the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, its path of destructive attacks had still demolished many buildings. Before the Nine Tails was teleported, the Konoha ninjas had been fighting for their lives against it. This also resulted in a large number of casualties. The post-war reconstruction work was in full swing. There were workers and ninjas participating in the reconstruction everywhere. Who is that? A new face I haven't seen before. It seems to be Kakashi. Is his true face under the mask really like that? So handsome. Stop being infatuated, hurry up and get to work. Emotional fluctuation +1. Chakra +1. Clearly, few people would care if you were handsome or not. The way Sasuke was chased by the young girls of his generation, as seen in the original story, would only happen among children who were naive and hadn't experienced the hardships of life. Kakashi. A familiar voice, accompanied by a trail of dust, rushed toward Kakashi. Might Guy's emotional fluctuation +1. Chakra +1%. Might Guy, you really know how to provide emotional value. His voice arrived before he did. Even before seeing Might Guy, he'd already provided Kakashi with ample emotional value. Might Guy. His eyebrows curved into crescents, and he was about to turn around to greet Might Guy. As soon as Kakashi turned, his body almost instinctively squatted down quickly. The reason was simple. If he didn't squat, Kakashi's head would have been directly hit by the large bundle of long wooden planks Might Guy was carrying on his shoulder. Kakashi, you're finally discharged. As expected of my lifelong rival. Let's have a duel. This is youth. Might Guy, carrying a large bundle of wood with one hand, showed Kakashi his characteristic big white teeth and gave a thumbs up. Sorry, Might Guy, next time. Wiping away non-existent cold sweat from his forehead, Kakashi looked at the bowl-cut hairstyle in front of him with some helplessness. He had just been discharged. He had no energy to duel with Might Guy. Moreover, it was only right that he go pay his respects to Minato Namikaze. After being unconscious for 10 days, Minato Namikaze had already been buried. As his disciple, he should go pay his respects. What a pity. I originally wanted to have a duel between true men with you, Kakashi. To celebrate your discharge. Listening to Might Guy's somewhat regretful words, Kakashi broke out in a cold sweat. Your way of celebrating is a duel. But considering it was Might Guy, Kakashi felt relieved. He didn't dislike the guy's personality. "Well, next time, I'll treat you to a meal, Might Guy." Kakashi spread his hands and said, "If that's the case, then it's settled. This is a promise between men, a promise of passionate youth. Sing praises. Strive. My Konoha mighty blue beast, Might Guy's youth. Might Guy's emotional fluctuation +1. Chakra +1%. Accompanied by Might Guy's roar, he was seen rushing toward the end of the road, carrying that large bundle of wood. That was the construction site. Clearly, while Might Guy was celebrating his youth, he was also doing what he could. This guy. Looking at that galloping figure, Kakashi smiled helplessly. He hadn't even noticed that his Sharingan was gone. Should he say, as expected of Might Guy? The rain continued to fall in a soft, steady patter. Kakashi didn't linger and headed back to the Hatake residence. It was empty. The spacious home was steeped in an aura of loneliness and desolation. A faint scent of dust lingered in the air as well. This suggested that the house had stood uninhabited for quite some time. After setting down his luggage, Kakashi returned to his room. Without hesitation, he pulled open the bottom drawer of his desk. Just as I expected, it's still here. Gazing at the object inside the drawer, Kakashi murmured softly. It was a broken sword. The shattered blade lay haphazardly in the drawer, as if it were mere trash. In the dim light, the fractured edge gleamed with a quiet intensity. Who could have imagined that this was the blade once wielded by Konoha's legendary White Fang, Sakumo Hatake, the man who, with a single short sword, had brought the entire ninja world to its knees. After his death, his son had not only broken it during some careless play, but had shown no interest in reforging or repairing it, simply tossing it into this forgotten corner. Carefully, Kakashi gathered the broken fragments one by one and laid them out on the desk. He wiped away the dust that clung to them. The dullness faded, and the blade's shine returned once more. Staring at that familiar gleam, Kakashi couldn't resist gently running his fingers along the jagged edge. Now that he'd lost his Sharingan, he needed to swiftly reclaim the sword techniques he'd set aside for the past 2 years. Kakashi couldn't fathom why his former self had abandoned his father's sword in favor of the Sharingan, which had never truly belonged to him. After all, the two weren't mutually exclusive. But now he was here. This sword would once again shine with the brilliance of Konoha's White Fang. That said, the blade was already broken and would need to be reforged. Moreover, Kakashi felt it was a bit too short. It might be more accurate to call it a dagger than a sword. He carefully packed away the broken sword, planning to seek out the ninja cats of the Uchiha clan for help after paying his respects to Minato Namikaze. The ninja cats were renowned master smiths in the ninja world. The ninja tools they forged were of exceptional quality. And since the ninja cats were the Uchiha clan's exclusive summoning beasts, outsiders rarely had the chance to acquire their craftsmanship. At the thought of the Uchiha clan, Kakashi's expression grew subtly complicated. During the Nine Tails attack, the massive beast's enormous eyes, each the size of a house, had clearly displayed the 3-tomo Sharingan. And that night, not a single Uchiha had shown up to assist with sealing the Nine Tails. It wasn't just the villagers. Even many of Konoha's shinobi likely harbored suspicions toward the Uchiha clan. If Kakashi wanted to approach the Uchiha to have the ninja cats reforge the White Fang, he'd better do it soon. Otherwise, the one who had orchestrated keeping the Uchiha away from the battlefield would begin making their moves. At that point, any association with the Uchiha would inevitably spark rumors. Even so, Kakashi wasn't particularly concerned. Rumors. The original Kakashi had dealt with plenty, and in the information-saturated era of his previous life, they were even more rampant. Even fresh young leaves could be steeped until they turned old and withered. With that in mind, Kakashi stowed the broken white fang sword, grabbed some money, and headed out. After buying some fruit from a street vendor, he stepped into a nearby flower shop. But Kakashi, who had initially planned to buy just 2 bouquets of white chrysanthemums, hesitated for a moment and ended up purchasing a third. The cemetery was tucked away in a corner of Konoha. Though somewhat remote, it possessed a certain serene tranquility. Few people were on the paths. Even though the village had suffered heavy losses recently, nearly half a month had already passed. The living had to keep moving forward. Dwelling too deeply in grief, for the dead often led to one's own downfall. Many new gravestones had been added to the cemetery, each adorned with white chrysanthemums placed before it. Kakashi glanced at the fresh headstones, then made his way toward the memorial stone at the forefront. Minato Namikaze's grave was easy to spot. As the fourth Hokage, it stood right beside those of Hashirama Senju and Tobirama Senju. It was a shared grave for Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. Kakashi placed the 2 bouquets of white chrysanthemums and the fruit he'd bought in front of the grave, then squatted down to gaze at the photo on the headstone. In his memories, this blond, blue-eyed man always wore a gentle smile. But in the gravestone photo, his expression was calm, one Kakashi had seldom seen. "You didn't have to die." Kakashi felt respect for Minato Namikaze, but not understanding. Why chase after his wife when the 8 trigram sealing style and 4 symbols seal could have dealt with the 9 tails and resealed it? With those words left hanging, Kakashi turned and walked away without looking back, heading to a corner of the cemetery based on his recollection. But upon seeing the fresh white chrysanthemums still dotted with dew in front of the gravestone, Kakashi's eyes narrowed slightly. Rin was an orphan. After her death, few people besides Kakashi ever came to visit. His gaze swept the surroundings, nothing but rows of neatly arranged gravestones. Yet the white chrysanthemums before the headstone proved someone had been here. Kakashi squatted down, his expression unchanging, and looked at the gentle, lovely girl in the photo on the gravestone. This was a girl who'd chosen to die rather than let harm come to her comrades. For her, having such a fervent, obsessive simp must have been an excruciating burden. Kakashi had already figured out who the visitor was. Abido Uchiha, the one behind the 9 tails attack. Next time I'll come see you again. He patted the gravestone, then stuffed his hands into his pockets and left the cemetery. As he walked away, his eyes subconsciously drifted to a nearby headstone. "Well, I forgot about you today. Next time I'll bring some flowers." "Dad." Kakashi gave Sakumo Hatake's gravestone a brief glance, then departed. The cemetery seemed to settle back into its quiet stillness. Not long after Kakashi left, a dark figure emerged from the small grove beside the cemetery. The person was clad in black, wearing a one-eyed mask striped like a tiger's. A single crimson eye beneath the mask followed Kakashi's retreating figure. He walked silently to Rin Nohara's gravestone, staring at the bouquet of white chrysanthemums Kakashi had left. Beneath his black clothing, his chest rose and fell unevenly, as if he were holding back a surge of anger and pain. He snatched up the bouquet and hurled it aside in a fit of release. Uchiha Abido's emotions fluctuate +1 chakra +1%. "Who are you?" The sudden voice shattered the cemetery's silence. Kakashi, who should have been long gone, now stood at the cemetery gate. His dark eyes fixed on the figure with a touch of coldness. "So you noticed me." He turned slowly and silently to face the white-haired young man who'd returned, and at the same time, a hoarse, low voice emerged from Abido Uchiha's mouth. as expected from the famous Sharingan Kakashi. Where's your Sharingan? Uchiha Obito's emotional fluctuation +1. Chakra +1%. Uchiha Obito's emotional fluctuation +1. Chakra +1%. Uchiha Obito's emotional fluctuation +1. Chakra +1%. Uchiha. This guy. This guy. Where is my Sharingan? Where did my Sharingan go? Beneath his mask, Uchiha Obito stared rigidly at the familiar white-haired young man not far ahead. What followed was an overwhelming surge of rage. This bastard couldn't even protect Rin, and now he couldn't even keep his eyes safe. That's right. A loser is always a loser. This guy is nothing but a worthless failure who can't accomplish a damn thing. A series of notifications flashed through Kakashi's mind, and at the same time, he could clearly feel his chakra surging upward at a noticeable rate. It only stopped after a 20% increase, but even then, the occasional notification still popped up. As expected, coming back here was the right call. Kakashi gazed at the silent Uchiha Obito without betraying any emotion. Returning to the graveyard. That had been Kakashi's resolute decision. The fact that he'd lost his Sharingan couldn't possibly stay hidden from Uchiha Obito. The all-encompassing intelligence network woven by White Zetsu was so formidable that even Konoha, the ninja world's premier military powerhouse, had to admit defeat on that front. Rather than letting White Zetsu sniff out the news of his lost Sharingan, it was better for Kakashi to take the initiative and squeeze out as much benefit as possible. He'd only come here on a whim, but he hadn't expected to get so lucky and actually run into the guy. Come to think of it, once this was over, he should track down Shizune and ask her to keep the details of whose eyes he'd transplanted under wraps for now. Meeting Uchiha Obito here served two purposes beyond just harvesting a wave of emotional value from him. If he could get Obito to admit he was Uchiha Madara, or confess to being the mastermind behind the Ninetales incident half a month ago, Kakashi could use that to deflect or soften the rumors swirling around the Uchiha clan in the village. Then, enlisting the Ninja Cat clan's help to reforge his White Fang would be a lot less complicated, especially with the Uchiha involved. Getting the Ninja Cat clan to forge ninja tools was no easy feat. After all, they were the Uchiha's exclusive summons, and almost exclusively acknowledged Uchiha clan members. Back when he'd first transplanted the Sharingan, the Uchiha clan had only grudgingly tolerated an outsider like Kakashi possessing it because of Minato Namikaze's influence. An outsider holding their clan's Kekkei Genkai was practically a direct violation of a bloodline clan's taboos. If not for Minato Namikaze, the Uchiha would probably have demanded the Sharingan back not long after the transplant. In Kakashi's current position, bypassing the Uchiha clan entirely to get the Ninja Cat clan to forge a blade was next to impossible. In other words, if Uchiha Obito admitted he was Uchiha Madara, or the real culprit behind the Ninetales incident, making the Uchiha owe him a favor, then Kakashi could secure a pledge of allegiance to reforge the White Fang. With both angles covered, achieving that second goal would be like killing two birds with one stone. He hoped this guy would play along. I am Uchiha Madara. The air grew faintly still in that moment. Uchiha Obito fixed Kakashi with a dark glare, barely containing his fury, and spat out the words one by one. This, Kakashi had figured he might need to put in some real effort to pry the information out of him. He hadn't expected it to be this straightforward. All he'd asked was, "Who are you?" And Uchiha Obito had immediately spilled his Uchiha Madara alias. This guy really was, so tell me now. Where's your Sharingan? Staring at the silent Kakashi, Uchiha Obito locked eyes with him intently. Why the hell should I tell you? Facing Uchiha Obaido's question, Kakashi cocked his head, shooting back with an odd look on his face. Beneath his mask, Uchiha Obaido's face was plastered with question marks. You bastard! I answered your question, shouldn't you answer mine? Uchiha Obaido's emotional fluctuation +1. Chakra +1%. To Uchiha Obaido, Kakashi's blank expression was utterly infuriating and loathsome right then. HMPH, all talk and no action. There was no one else around now. He couldn't let this guy walk away. He'd even taken down Minato Namikaze, so what did he have to fear from a mere Kakashi? The eye beneath Uchiha Obaido's single-hole mask flashed crimson in an instant. He was ready to strike. Uchiha Madara, how could you still be alive? If it really was you, then was the Nine Tails incident half a month ago your handiwork? Facing the poised Uchiha Obaido, Kakashi spoke with a grave expression. HMPH, that's right, it was me. Not even the fourth Hokage could stand in my way. Now think about your last W. Mid-sentence, a red flare burst in the sky not far behind Kakashi. Kakashi never fought without preparation. Before coming here, he deliberately lengthened the flare's fuse and lit it, just to keep Uchiha Obaido from attacking. Though the guy had been beaten by Minato Namikaze in 3 moves flat, the current Kakashi was no match for this lunatic. Now all his objectives were complete. Thanks to the recent Nine Tails incident, the ninjas in the village were on high alert, and reinforcements would arrive quickly. Even so, at a ninja's speed, the fastest support from the village to the graveyard would still take some time. He just needed to stall for 2 minutes. Or 1 minute. No. Maybe he wouldn't even need to wait. As Kakashi prepared to face off against Uchiha Obaido, he heard a familiar voice closing in from afar. And the owner of that voice was Konoha's proud blue beast, making his dynamic entry. As the passionate roar echoed, Kakashi's tension eased considerably. Might Guy. Well done. Kakashi hadn't anticipated that the first to respond to the flare would be Might Guy. They'd only parted ways a short while ago. If it was Might Guy, Kakashi tightened his grip on his broken sword, lowering his stance slightly, fully alert against Uchiha Obaido. Oh, I didn't expect you to be the one who fired the flare, Kakashi. Is that guy across from you the enemy? The proud blue beast will never back down. With dust kicking up from his sprint, a green figure came to a halt beside Kakashi. In his green jumpsuit, Might Guy looked incredibly reliable to Kakashi right then. Konoha's proud blue beast, making his dynamic entry. You too. Uchiha Obaido gazed at the 2 familiar figures before him, one white, one green, with a somber expression. He vaguely recalled that the one who used to stand at Kakashi's side in battle had been him. The sky was heavily overcast, and a cold wind swept through the graveyard, making the surrounding trees rustle. Kakashi stood shoulder to shoulder with Might Guy, short blade in hand, gazing at Uchiha Obaido, who called himself Uchiha Madara. He claims to be Uchiha Madara, the mastermind behind the Nine Tails attack. Might Guy, be careful. We'll hold him off until reinforcements arrive. Kakashi's tone was grave. His objective had been achieved. Now he had to consider how to wrap things up. Might Guy's arrival was Kakashi's greatest source of confidence. Although Might Guy's 8 gates formation hadn't yet reached the level where he could open the Gate of Death, using it against Uchiha Obaido right now would be a complete waste. Moreover, Kakashi didn't want Might Guy to open the Gate of Death. Might Guy opening the Gate of Death to face Uchiha Obaido. Whether he won or not, Kakashi felt it wasn't worth it. He simply felt it wasn't worth it for Might Guy. How could Uchiha Obaido be compared to Might Guy? This wasn't a comparison of strength or ability. It was a comparison of character, personality, and conduct. Rin died to protect the village, and Uchiha Obaido blamed everyone, wanting to drag the whole world to hell. Might Dai died to protect his juniors, and Might Guy inherited his father's will, training even harder to protect his comrades. The two simply couldn't be compared. Comparing Might Guy to Uchiha Obaido was an insult to Might Guy. Oh, I didn't expect such a formidable opponent. My youth will display its passionate power. Hearing Kakashi speak like that, Might Guy's expression became serious, and he stood ready. I see is that your confidence. Watching the two in front of him, Uchiha Obaido's voice, apart from still being hoarse, showed no discernible fluctuation. Uchiha Obaido's emotions fluctuate +1. Chakra +1%. At this moment, Uchiha Obaido wanted to fiercely choke Kakashi and demand to know where his Sharingan had gone. That was the Jonin gift he had given Kakashi. But at this moment he had to leave. Because another figure landed beside Kakashi. The newcomer was tall, wearing a standard Konoha Jonin vest, and on his sleeves was the Uchiha clan crest of a flaming fan. Uchiha Fugaku. Following closely were a continuous stream of figures, all members of the Uchiha police force. Due to the Nine Tails attack earlier, the Uchiha clan's compound had been relocated to a corner of Konoha. It wasn't too far from the Konoha graveyard. He is. Uchiha Fugaku glanced at the two juniors, then looked at the suspiciously dressed Uchiha Obaido in front. After all, what normal person wears a black robe and a mask in broad daylight? His words stopped abruptly mid-sentence. The last word, who, remained unspoken, blocked by the crimson three-tomo Sharingan beneath the opponent's mask. Kakashi, you won't amount to anything with petty cleverness. Our next meeting will be your death. The three-tomo Sharingan under the mask transformed into a pattern of overlapping sides, causing Uchiha Fugaku's eyes, which had been fixed on Uchiha Obaido, to suddenly constrict. Mangekyou Sharingan. With the appearance of the Mangekyou Sharingan, Uchiha Fugaku's expression turned extremely grim. An Uchiha clansman. And an Uchiha clansman, possessing the legendary power of the Uchiha clan. Remember my name. My name is Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Obaido was already preparing to leave. The moment Kakashi fired the signal flare, he had already intended to go. With Might Guy present, Uchiha Obaido believed he could quickly take down Kakashi and Might Guy, but it wouldn't be possible before Konoha's reinforcements arrived. Now, Konoha's new reinforcements had arrived, and there was no point in staying here any longer. Or rather, he had only come this time to see Rin. As Uchiha Obaido's last words fell, space began to twist like a vortex, and with his Mangekyou Sharingan as the center, his entire body merged into the vortex, completely disappearing. From the moment Uchiha Obaido activated Kamui to his departure, the entire process took less than a second. This demonstrated just how incredibly fast this movement was. It also indirectly proved how extraordinarily quick Minato Namikaze's reactions were when he fought Uchiha Obaido. Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Fugaku looked at the now empty tombstone with a grim expression, his mind in turmoil. Clan head Fugaku, while he claimed to be Uchiha Madara, he also revealed that he was responsible for the Nine Tails attack. Kakashi spoke to Uchiha Fugaku after Uchiha Obaido left. What? Uchiha Fugaku's face changed repeatedly, like a drowning fish. Because of the Nine Tails attack, his Uchiha clan was assigned to a corner of Konoha when the clan lands were reallocated. He had been struggling to find the true culprit of the Nine Tails attack, yet he never would have imagined it was the so-called Uchiha Madara. But it had to be said, if it was Uchiha Madara, he certainly had the ability to release the Nine Tails. The Nine Tails was like a toy to him. As Uchiha Obito departed, everyone present was astonished. Trapped in a heavy encirclement, he was still able to escape. Especially when he claimed to be Uchiha Madara just before leaving and stated that he was responsible for the Nine Tails attack. It caused the Uchiha clansmen present to have various thoughts. Silence, contemplation, surprise, and delight. Kakashi subtly glanced at the surrounding Uchiha. At this moment, he suddenly understood why the Uchiha clan was ostracized by the Konoha higher-ups. Even if Uchiha Obito truly was Uchiha Madara. As members of Konoha, their reaction at this moment should not have been like this. Everyone go back. Don't think too much about today's events. I will handle it. Uchiha Fugaku seemed to notice the anomaly among his clansmen, and his face darkened. Kakashi, please come with me to see the Hokage. Uchiha Fugaku looked at Kakashi and Might Guy. Uchiha Fugaku's tone was very friendly, completely at odds with his fierce appearance. Uchiha Fugaku was a Jonin of Konoha. Kakashi was also a Jonin of Konoha, although the former held the title of Konoha Police Force Captain. But by rules, Uchiha Fugaku couldn't command Kakashi. So even though Kakashi was only 14 years old, the two held positions of the same rank. I was thinking the same thing, clan head Fugaku. Kakashi nodded. Meeting Uchiha Obito was completely unexpected, but from the outcome, it wasn't a bad thing. In fact, Kakashi even needed to thank his former comrade. Might Guy, let's go together. Might Guy was also a witness, and given the suspicion surrounding the Uchiha, the testimonies of Might Guy and Kakashi were particularly important. Konoha. Hokage Building. What? Uchiha Madara. In the Hokage's office, the old man, dressed in a red and white Hokage robe, looked at the three people before him, his wrinkled face twitching involuntarily. If only Uchiha Fugaku had come to declare that the true culprit behind the Nine Tails attack was Uchiha Madara, then Hiruzen Sarutobi would have simply dismissed it as a foolish move made, because his clan's land had been relocated to a corner of Konoha. But now, not only Kakashi, but also Might Guy, stated that an unknown Uchiha had claimed to be Uchiha Madara and admitted to being responsible for the Nine Tails attack. Hiruzen Sarutobi had no choice but to take this matter seriously. Kakashi and Might Guy were both outstanding talents of their generation. Not only that, Kakashi was also Minato Namikaze's disciple, a true and trusted member of the Hokage lineage. He was someone Hiruzen Sarutobi could trust. When Kakashi was previously unconscious in the hospital, Hiruzen Sarutobi even made time in his busy schedule to visit him. It's like this, Hokage-sama. Although I don't believe he is Uchiha Madara, his strength is absolutely not to be underestimated. Kakashi calmly looked at the old man before him. Uchiha Fugaku subconsciously glanced at Kakashi upon hearing this. He doesn't believe that person is Uchiha Madara. What do you mean by that? Hiruzen Sarutobi smoked his pipe, his brows tightly furrowed. Minato Namikaze's death was too sudden. He hadn't even left him a dying message, so even Hiruzen Sarutobi wasn't clear about the situation Minato Namikaze had faced. But, thinking of the arrogant man in his memory, clad in crimson armor, with black hair like a waterfall, looking down on the world, Hiruzen Sarutobi felt that now was a time of many troubles. The fourth Hokage, in whom he had placed such high hopes, had just sacrificed himself, and now someone was appearing under the name of Uchiha Madara. Although I don't know Uchiha Madara well, I have learned about this man from records. With Uchiha Madara's wild and uninhibited style, he would never conceal his true face. Since he concealed his true face, why would he still use Uchiha Madara's name? That person's space-time ninjutsu is indeed extremely excellent, even stronger than my teacher's, but being strong doesn't mean he is Uchiha Madara. Listening to Kakashi's analysis, Hiruzen Sarutobi didn't show any smile. Instead, he took a deep drag from his pipe, and as a light blue smoke billowed from his mouth, Hiruzen Sarutobi sighed softly. Space-time. He knew all too well the power of space-time ninjutsu. As a disciple of the second Hokage, Senju Tabarama, Hiruzen Sarutobi had once tried to learn the Flying Thunder God technique. But unfortunately, he lacked the aptitude for it. As for the mysterious person claiming to be Uchiha Madara, even without Kakashi saying more, Hiruzen Sarutobi absolutely did not believe that person was Uchiha Madara. He had seen that man with his own eyes, and just as Kakashi said, that man would never conceal his true face. But an unknown Uchiha clan member. Hiruzen Sarutobi's gaze now turned meaningfully towards Uchiha Fugaku. Uchiha Fugaku felt his scalp tingle under that gaze, and almost instinctively, he immediately knelt on one knee, speaking in a deep voice. The Uchiha clan has always had a custom of retrieving bodies. Since the village's founding, no clan members have ever been left outside. Unless... Hiruzen Sarutobi's gaze sharpened upon hearing this. He thought of a possibility. Before the founding of Konoha. Unless the person is a clan member from before Konoha was founded. As Uchiha Fugaku's words rang out, they confirmed what Hiruzen Sarutobi had been thinking. Before the establishment of ninja villages, ninja clans had a habit of migrating. While top-tier ninja clans like the Uchiha clan migrated very rarely, it did happen. It was not impossible for Uchiha clan members to have been lost during this process. Kakashi, standing nearby, was slightly stunned upon hearing this. Where did that come from? I will go back and review the records immediately to investigate if any clan members were lost outside. Looking at Uchiha Fugaku, who was bowing his head and dared not look him directly in the eye, Hiruzen Sarutobi stepped forward and helped him up, saying, "Fugaku, what are you doing? I have no intention of blaming you. It's just that with Minato's sacrifice, there are bound to be some rumors in the village. I hope Fugaku won't take them to heart." Uchiha Fugaku was helped up by Hiruzen Sarutobi, and looking at the old man before him, his unease slightly receded. He then continued, "With an outsider possessing the Sharingan of my Uchiha clan will definitely pursue him with the entire clan." Uchiha Fugaku was practically gritting his teeth at this moment. The Uchiha clan's situation in Konoha was already difficult, and now with this troublesome matter, it was even harder to move forward. Fugaku's abilities I have never doubted. Go! Hiruzen Sarutobi sighed in his heart upon seeing the man's demeanor. He had never doubted Uchiha Fugaku's loyalty to Konoha. No, it shouldn't be described as loyalty. It should be described as a heart that yearns for peace. Hiruzen Sarutobi had never doubted that. But having a heart that yearns for peace does not mean Uchiha Fugaku is very capable. Yes. Uchiha Fugaku immediately accepted the order and exited the Hokage's office. His immediate priority now was to find out which branch of the clan had members lost outside, to trace the origins and thus find the unknown Uchiha's lair. With Uchiha Fugaku's departure, only 3 people remained in the Hokage's office. Seeing Uchiha Fugaku leave, Hiruzen Sarutobi looked at Kakashi. However, compared to his interaction with Uchiha Fugaku earlier, he was much more casual. This was not due to a lack of regard for Kakashi. On the contrary, Hiruzen Sarutobi was very close to the 4th Hokage's direct disciple. It was precisely because of this closeness that he was casual. How do you feel after getting a new eye? Hiruzen Sarutobi spoke like a kind elder from next door. I feel pretty good, much better than before. Kakashi subconsciously touched his left eye and replied. Kakashi's words actually surprised Hiruzen Sarutobi a little. That previous Sharingan was a Jonin gift given to Kakashi by his teammate. Now why? Those who have passed on have passed on. The living should carry the hopes of the deceased and continue to move forward. Hiruzen Sarutobi smiled upon hearing this, stepped forward, and patted Kakashi's shoulder, saying, "It's best that you think this way. If you need anything, just tell this old man. I believe Minato would also be relieved to see you like this now." Kakashi's eyes shifted slightly at this. Then he pulled out the broken white fang blade and looked at Hiruzen Sarutobi. I was planning to go to the Uchiha clan and ask clan head Fugaku to request the Ninja Cat clan to forge a new blade for me. After the incident with Uchiha Obaido, asking the Ninja Cat clan to forge a blade was already a sure thing. If he got Hiruzen Sarutobi's approval, it would be 100% certainty. That would be simple then. I'll mention it to Fugaku later, and that should be enough. As the heavy door creaked open, the scent of aged history and ink wafted out. Uchiha Fugaku, holding an oil lamp, walked with a solemn expression between rows of ancient bookshelves, searching for records of the Uchiha clan's migrations before the founding of the Hidden Leaf Village. He hadn't lied to Hiruzen Sarutobi. He really was looking for any Uchiha clansmen who might have been lost to the outside world. It was just that, over more than 1,000 years, even though the Uchiha clan had migrated only a handful of times, finding such records wasn't easy. If there truly were Uchiha clansmen lost outside and their records existed, then one could investigate the local area where they went missing, and from there, trace the clues to identify that unknown Uchiha and determine which branch of the family they descended from. This is going to be a massive undertaking. Uchiha Fugaku arrived at his destination. Gazing at the rows of bookshelves that exuded the aroma of history, he felt a headache coming on. Kakashi bid farewell to Hiruzen Sarutobi. With the third Hokage's approval, the matter of the Ninja Cat clan forging a sword for him was now set in stone. After the incident with Uchiha Obaido, Kakashi knew he couldn't live a peaceful life. Even if he hadn't replaced his eye, and even if his Sharingan hadn't been damaged, his identity meant he was destined to be caught up in the chain of events from now until the future. Now he was Kakashi. Kakashi Hatake. Might Guy, once my sword is forged, come train with me to help me get back in shape. Kakashi and the green-clad youth walked along the bustling streets of the Hidden Leaf Village. The distant setting sun cast its rays upon them. Kakashi stared at the road ahead, his voice calm but carrying a hint of inexplicable determination. He had set aside swordsmanship for 2 years. Even with his old foundation, regaining mastery wouldn't happen overnight. Train with Kakashi to help him recover. Of course, leave it to me. It's a promise, a youthful, passionate agreement between men. Might Guy, hearing his friend say this, had no reason to refuse. He thumped his chest, gave Kakashi a thumbs up and flashed his bright white teeth. Might Guy's emotional fluctuation +1. Chakra +1%. Might Guy you. Well, even though it's recovery training, I think it's better if we don't make it too passionate. Looking at the highly motivated Might Guy, Kakashi instinctively felt a non-existent cold sweat break out. While Might Guy was powerful and someone he could absolutely trust to have his back in battle, his passionate and youthful personality, Kakashi sometimes found it genuinely hard to handle. Though Kakashi didn't dislike that full of passion side of him. I'm heading to the Uchiha clan now. Might Guy want to come along? Kakashi spoke unhurriedly, hands in his pockets. I won't go. Today's daily training isn't finished yet. 500 laps of handstand running around the village. Listening to Mike Guy's words, Kakashi was left somewhat speechless. He hoped that during the upcoming recovery training, this guy wouldn't push him too hard. Uchiha Library. Under the lamplight, Uchiha Fugaku flipped through ancient books one after another. With his Sharingan activated, he was practically scanning 10 lines at a glance. The speed at which he read a page never exceeded 3 seconds. So, even though only an hour or two had passed since he left Hiruzen Sarutobi, a thick stack of ancient books had already piled up beside him. But even so, several bookshelves still awaited him. Just as Uchiha Fugaku closed the ancient book in his hand and prepared to pick up the next one, the library door was suddenly pushed open. Uchiha Fugaku's brows furrowed slightly at this, and he said, "Didn't I say not to disturb me unless it's important?" However, the Uchiha clansman replied with a strange expression on his face. "Clan head Kakashi is here." Uchiha Fugaku frowned upon hearing this. "Kakashi Hatake, what does this disciple of the fourth Hokage want with me?" "I understand. Have him wait for me in the tea room." Setting down the ancient book in his hand, Uchiha Fugaku rubbed his aching lower back and stood up to go meet the renowned disciple of the Hokage. Tea room. Kakashi watched the man in front of him prepare tea. Warming the cup, placing the tea leaves, moistening the tea, brewing, pouring. Although Uchiha Fugaku was a ninja, he had been deeply influenced by the Uchiha clan's 1,000-year history since childhood. Even something like tea tasting, which was useless to a ninja, he knew a thing or two about. Kakashi wasn't surprised by this. The neighboring Hyuga clan had even stronger traditional values. The white-haired youth observed the man making tea, and the man observed Kakashi in return. At 5, his father, Sakumo Hatake, had committed suicide at home due to rumors. At 12, he had witnessed his friend Uchiha Obito's death and been gifted the Sharingan. At 13, he had been forced to kill his comrade due to a hidden mist conspiracy. At 14, just half a month ago during the Nine Tails attack, his sensei and sensei's wife had both perished, and he himself had lost the Sharingan gifted by his friend in that turmoil. Although his talent was extraordinary, he had become a Jonin at 12. His short 9 years as a ninja had been filled with pain and torment. Such repeated blows would be hard for anyone to bear, but the Kakashi before him had endured them. At least this white-haired youth didn't show any signs of being weary of the world. "Kakashi, please try this new tea." As the tea poured into the cup, a fragrant, steaming brew was pushed in front of Kakashi by Uchiha Fugaku. Kakashi, who didn't know much about tea, simply picked up the teacup, blew on it, and drank it all in one gulp. Uchiha Fugaku wasn't surprised by Kakashi's crude manner. Very few ninja bothered to study such things. "Clan head Fugaku, I have a request." With the hot tea warming his stomach, Kakashi felt a slight heat spread through his body, then looked seriously at the man before him. "What is it?" "If it's within my capabilities, I'll do my best to fulfill it." Uchiha Fugaku didn't make a full commitment, just glancing lightly at Kakashi's dark left eye. As long as he didn't ask for a Sharingan. Listening to the Uchiha clan head's words, Kakashi took out the broken white fang and placed it on the table. "Please, clan head Fugaku, ask the Ninja Cat clan to reforge White Fang for me." Uchiha Fugaku felt a slight relief in his heart upon hearing this. He then picked up the white fang that Kakashi had handed him and examined it carefully. He was clearly very interested in it. The Uchiha clan was a ninja clan extremely skilled in swordsmanship, and Uchiha Fugaku himself was no exception. This sword had once been the famous personal weapon of Sakumo Hatake, a truly rare sight. It's entirely made of chakra metal. Hearing Uchiha Fugaku's murmur, Kakashi's expression shifted slightly. Chakra metal. No one had ever told him that. In his memory, he had always just used this sword to hack at people. Kakashi, you loser. Asuma Sarutobi's 2 flying swallow blades were made from this material, allowing a ninja's chakra to flow smoothly through the ninja tool without any obstruction. In theory, as long as a ninja had enough chakra, they could use a dagger to achieve the effect of a 40-meter-long blade. It seems to be the highest grade chakra metal, which is quite rare. Reforging it won't come cheap. Listening to Uchiha Fugaku's words, Kakashi automatically tuned out the second half of the sentence. He still had some of his father's savings at home, plus his own from the past few years, which should be enough. It's a reforging, not a repair. Kakashi made a point of clarifying. Uchiha Fugaku looked at the broken white fang blade in his hand and nodded slightly. In that case, you should go find the Ninja Cat clan and see what they can do. As Uchiha Fugaku spoke, he formed hand seals, and with a low shout, he slapped his palm on the floor beside him. Summoning Jutsu. Bang tilde. A puff of white smoke rose up in front of Kakashi, and then a large black cat wearing a small black vest with green eyes appeared before the two of them. Meow Fugaku, long time no see meow. What's the matter, why'd you call me meow? The large black cat greeted Uchiha Fugaku. Yamaru. Take a look at this. Uchiha Fugaku handed over the broken white fang blade. A rare good blade, meow. Where'd you get it, Fugaku, meow? As soon as the blade was in its paws, the black cat named Yamaru clicked its tongue in admiration. This is Kakashi Hatake, son of Konoha's White Fang. What you have there is Sakumo Hatake's personal blade, the White Fang of Konoha. It's damaged now. Yamaru, can you reforge it? Uchiha Fugaku gestured toward Kakashi to introduce him, then asked. Yamaru looked at Kakashi and clapped its paws in praise. So it's the famous Sharingan Kakashi. Where's your Sharingan, meow? The large black cat stared curiously at Kakashi's black eye. That's all in the past. Kakashi scratched his head awkwardly. Saying he was Sharingan Kakashi right in front of the Uchiha clan head, wasn't that just asking for trouble? Was this cat doing it on purpose, or was it an accident? Because he possessed all 5 elemental natures, wind, lightning, water, fire, and earth, Kakashi, with his Sharingan, could copy any technique an enemy used, adapting it to his own attributes. So at some point, titles like Sharingan Kakashi, the Copy Ninja, and Konoha's Technician started circulating in the ninja world. If it were just that, it would be fine. But combined with the prestige of being the White Fang's son, the Hokage's disciple, and the hero of the Kanabi Bridge, Kakashi's reputation had outstripped his actual strength. Now, even a ninja cat's first words upon seeing him were about the famous Kakashi. Meow, if that's the case, what kind of blade do you want to reforge this into, meow? In response to Yamaru's question, Kakashi quickly handed over the blueprint he'd drawn up in advance. A Yanlingdo, a goose-quill saber. It was a type of short-range weapon, about 1 meter long. Kakashi had thought about it for a long time, considering the unique nature of the ninja profession, before deciding on this. However, since the White Fang was made of chakra metal, he could use the properties of chakra metal to make up for it. During battle, by injecting chakra, the attack range could suddenly extend, creating an unexpected effect. Meow, this design is a first for me, meow. However, since the White Fang is made of excellent chakra metal, we'll definitely need to use chakra metal for the reforging, meow. The cost, meow tilde tilde tilde. The large black cat looked at Kakashi, a human-like expression on its face. Of course, as long as... Kakashi started to say, reaching to pull out some money. Although Sakumo Hatake hadn't cared about rewards when completing missions back in the day, and would even voluntarily share benefits with his teammates, he'd still managed to save some money. Combined with Kakashi's own savings over the years, it should be enough to reforge the White Fang. Meow, thank you for your patronage. A total of 35 million, meow tilde tilde tilde. Hearing Kakashi say it was no problem, Yamaru immediately beamed with a smile, rubbing its two chubby cat paws together. Age how much? Oh, one Asuma. Kakashi's hand, reaching for the money, froze in place. Sakumo Hadake's savings plus his own only added up to 15 million. This meant he was still short by 20 million. What's wrong, meow? Could it be that you're a pauper, meow? Yamaru looked at Kakashi's expression, a hint of disdain in its eyes. Its face was filled with contempt for the poor. If you don't have money, why are you trying to forge a blade? Yamaru's emotional fluctuation +1. Chakra +1%. I'll pay for him. Seeing this, Uchiha Fugaku, who was nearby, his eyes shifting slightly, spoke up at that moment. As expected, Fugaku is generous, meow tilde. Upon hearing this, Yamaru's disdain vanished instantly, replaced by a joyful smile. Kakashi couldn't help but twitch his lips at the sight. This greedy cat. Could this guy be the prototype for a Manki Nico? This is the remaining blade. Kakashi sighed, took out the remaining broken pieces of the White Fang, and pushed them over. He urgently needed to regain his former swordsmanship, and a suitable blade was extremely important. He owed the Uchiha a favor. But it didn't matter. At worst, he could throw Asuma to Uchiha Fugaku later and have him pay back the 15 million himself. Well, just kidding. Pick it up in 3 days, meow tilde. Seeing this, Yamaru unhesitatingly took the 2 sections of the White Fang and with a puff of white smoke, disappeared from the tea room. Clan head Fugaku, I'll repay the money. Watching the greedy cat leave, Kakashi sighed softly, looking at the calm and composed Uchiha Fugaku before him. There's no rush for that. Kakashi, as a prodigy of the new generation in the village, if I can provide an extra layer of security for your strength, I don't mind lending a hand. Uchiha Fugaku sipped his tea, completely unconcerned about whether Kakashi would repay the money. Prodigy me. Facing Uchiha Fugaku's words, Kakashi sighed softly. Right now, even 2 of him combined probably wouldn't be enough to take on Might Guy alone. However, Uchiha Fugaku speaking this way clearly didn't expect Kakashi to repay the money. Rather, he was trying to win him over. Although Uchiha Fugaku had left early during the day's events, he had realized Hiruzen Sarutobai's high regard for this new generation. Even though Minato Namikaze was dead, and Kakashi had lost his biggest backer. But the value of a Jonin at 12 years old couldn't be bought with a strong backer. In Uchiha Fugaku's eyes, one day Kakashi himself would become the strongest backer. Perhaps even ascending to that position, the Uchiha clan had always dreamed of. In this situation, building a good relationship with this genius in advance was very necessary. In that case, thank you, clan head Fugaku. The night fell like a curtain, with a bright moon hanging high in the sky. As dusk settled, the streets of Konoha gradually came alive. Vendors hawked their goods on both sides of the road, and warm light spilled out from the open doors and windows of various shops. The lively sounds of clinking glasses and toasts from inside the barbecue restaurant, mingled with the lingering smoke, tugged at Kakashi as well. But when he thought about the zero balance in his bank account, Kakashi couldn't help but sigh and give up on the idea of going into the barbecue place. Just a short while ago, he'd had a whopping 15 million ryo. Oh well, he'd just head back and whip up a bowl of instant noodles. Then, Kakashi's head started throbbing at the reminder that he still had 3 days before he could pick up his sword, followed by recovery training. What was he supposed to eat in the meantime? He never imagined that as a transmigrator, he'd end up in such a sorry state. Truly, even a hero can be brought low by a lack of funds. Shaking his head, Kakashi let out another sigh and turned to leave. He hadn't taken more than a couple of steps when someone tapped him on the shoulder, accompanied by a voice as clear as a silver bell. Kakashi. Kakashi turned around and saw a smiling girl standing behind him. She had long, slightly curly hair, flawless features, and a pair of warm, crimson eyes that reflected the streetlights like sparkling gems in the night. Maybe she'd hurried a bit to catch up with him, as a faint blush colored her cheeks. Kurenai, what are you doing here? Glancing at the familiar face before him, Kakashi asked casually. I was just passing by. I didn't feel like cooking, so I thought I'd grab something to eat. I noticed you standing at the entrance of the barbecue restaurant for a while. Were you planning to have some barbecue tonight? Kurenai's warm eyes gazed at the young man in front of her with a smile. No. To be honest, I'm flat broke. Kakashi spread his hands openly, showing Kurenai his empty pockets, which were cleaner than his face. Kurenai looked at the young man before her with a puzzled expression. Kakashi out of money. He'd gained fame at a young age, came from a prestigious background, and had built quite a reputation not just in Konoha, but across the entire ninja world. In Kurenai's eyes, the young man standing there was the last person who'd ever be short on cash. Kakashi straightforwardly explained to Kurenai about handing over his money to the ninja cat for forging his sword. Upon hearing this, Kurenai suddenly understood. Inwardly, she grumbled about how shady the Uchiha clan's ninja cats were, wondering if Kakashi had been conned by some joint scheme between the Uchiha and the cats. But then again, Kurenai Yuhai's emotional fluctuation +1. Chakra +1%. Well, in that case, how about I treat you to dinner, Tilda? I bet you don't want to go home and settle for plain instant noodles or munch on soldier pills by yourself, right? Whether it was the lighting or not, the girl's face under the street lamp seemed to flush even deeper, and her flickering gaze subtly betrayed a hint of anticipation and nervousness. I'm incredibly grateful. Without a second's hesitation, Kakashi pressed his palms together, his eyes crinkling into crescents as he thanked the girl in front of him. The moment he'd spotted her, Kakashi knew his dinner was taken care of for the night. Sure, letting a girl foot the bill smacked of freeloading, but it beat going hungry. But Kakashi had no hang-ups about it. At worst, he'd save Asuma from hidden down the line, sparing this girl from becoming a widow. For that favor alone, let alone one meal, Kakashi could comfortably accept 10, or even 100 from her without a qualm. Besides, given the choice between barbecue and plain instant noodles or soldier pills, who wouldn't pick the barbecue? Let's go then. Seeing the young man accept her invitation, Kurenai's tone carried a touch of joy and hidden delight. Inside the barbecue restaurant, Kurenai deliberately picked a quiet corner with fewer people around. She flagged down a waiter for the menu, then generously slid it over to Kakashi, signaling that he could order whatever he wanted since she was covering it. While Kakashi was ordering, Kurenai asked the waiter for a bottle of sake. This made Kakashi pause for a second. Among the 3 taboos for ninjas, it seemed to include alcohol, women, and gambling. But then he figured, ninjas were already risking their lives in battles at 12 years old, so banning alcohol felt a bit absurd. He didn't comment on it. Kurenai, who'd been sneaking glances at Kakashi, let out a quiet sigh of relief when she saw no change in the young man's expression after she ordered the alcohol. Before long, the barbecue arrived. Kakashi, quite at ease, grilled the meat while chatting casually with Kurenai Yuhai. The two were old acquaintances. Kakashi's father, Sakumo Hatake, and Kurenai Yuhai's father, Shinku Yuhai, were old friends too. The two men often got together for sake, so Kakashi and Kurenai could be considered childhood sweethearts. Kurenai knocked back her glass of clear sake, then extended her pink tongue to lick the lingering drops from the corner of her lips. Her eyes, now veiled with a subtle haze, fixed on Kakashi as she said, "Kakashi, why didn't you tell me when you got discharged from the hospital? That way, I could have helped you carry some stuff." Kakashi picked up a grilled slice of meat, placed it on the girl's plate, and responded slowly while grilling his own. There wasn't much to carry anyway. Everyone's got their own things going on. No need to drop everything just for me. It'd only cause unnecessary hassle. Glancing at Kurenai, who was downing another glass of sake, Kakashi kindly reminded her, "Don't overdo it with the drinking." Kakashi wasn't particularly fond of alcohol, but he didn't mind it either. In both his previous life and this one, drinking culture was unavoidable. So if the situation called for it, Kakashi could handle a few drinks. "Come on, Kakashi, you have some too, tilde." Propping her chin on one hand, Kurenai Yuhai flashed a bright smile as she poured a glass of sake for Kakashi and nudged it toward him. Staring at the glass in front of him, Kakashi initially thought about refusing, but since Kurenai Yuhai was treating, he didn't want to kill the vibe. He picked it up and downed it in one go. Sake had a low alcohol content. It had a bit of a kick afterward, but 1 or 2 glasses were no big deal. Seeing Kakashi drink it without hesitation, the girl's already curved lips lifted into an even brighter smile. The meal wrapped up amid their casual chatter. As Kurenai Yuhai, a bit tipsy, settled the bill, the cashier shot Kakashi a teasing look. As expected from the famous copy ninja Kakashi, even when the girl's footing the bill, he could freeload with total composure. "Thank you for your patronage, please come again, you." The waiter enthusiastically called out to the departing pair, but before he could finish, Kurenai Yuhai, who was a little drunk and leaning on Kakashi for support, glanced back at him inadvertently. The waiter's words cut off abruptly. After the two had left, the waiter touched his chin and smiled to himself. Well, it seems even the renowned Kakashi has his moments of romance. "See you tomorrow." As the slightly lazy words slipped from the girl's mildly intoxicated lips, Kakashi waved back at her. With the girl a bit tipsy, Kakashi thoughtfully escorted his benefactor home. Arms crossed, leaning against the doorframe, the girl tilted her head, watching the young man's departing figure. Her eyes sparkled, showing no sign of intoxication. She had to admit she was starting to like Kakashi. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been so forward. If she had to pinpoint when she started liking him, it might have been his helpless smile when facing Might Guy during her previous hospital stay, combined with Kakashi's resolute back as he fearlessly blocked the tailed beast ball earlier, and his consistent aura of genius. And Kakashi was genuinely handsome. Like Sake, Kurenai Yuhai appeared harmless on the outside but was fiery and proactive within, as stubborn as the spirit itself. No matter how much time passed, she would never give up on something she believed in, and her conviction would only grow stronger over time. Similarly, like Sake, she would become more mellow with the passage of time. Kurenai Yuhai's emotional fluctuation. Chakra plus 1%. Kakashi felt no emotional ripple from the fluctuations in his heart. After the meal, he realized that Yuhai's feelings toward him might not be so simple. But such matters weren't important to Kakashi. Right now, the most crucial thing was to quickly boost his strength. Kakashi wouldn't naively assume that everything would be fine as long as he followed the so-called plot, and he could live a peaceful life afterward. The loss of his Kamui Mangekyo Sharingan destined a future full of uncertainties. In the future Fourth Great Ninja War, When he and Might Guy fought Uchiha Abido, who controlled six-tailed beasts, Kamui played a crucial role. Furthermore, Kamui would also be vital in the future battle against Kaguya Otsutsuki. It could be said that the eye pierced by the steel bar earlier wasn't just a simple piercing of the Kamui Mangekyou Sharingan. It was a piercing of the future of this world. Regardless, Kakashi currently had no interest in dwelling on such matters. It might seem a bit cold, but for Kakashi right now, Kurenai Yuhai was just a temporary punch-in cafeteria. Although it sounded a bit lofty, Kakashi now needed to work hard to save the world. Kakashi, you scoundrel! As Kakashi walked home, a figure stood under a street lamp ahead, hurrying toward him. Asuma Sarutobai's emotional fluctuation. Chakra plus 1%. You just came back from Yuhai's, didn't you? The person was none other than Kurenai Yuhai's future husband, Asuma Sarutobai. Asuma approached Kakashi, looking at him with an envious expression. Yeah, I ran into Yuhai on the way back from the Uchiha clan's compound, so I had dinner with her. Kakashi felt a bit overwhelmed looking at the young man in front of him, but he quickly and concisely explained the innocent nature of his encounter with Yuhai. This guy had been pursuing Kurenai Yuhai since their ninja academy days. It was practically common knowledge. Is that really all? Asuma wanted to ask more questions, but Kakashi's words cut him off directly. Yes, that's it. I ran out of money for forging my sword, and Yuhai took pity on me and treated me to a meal. Kakashi looked earnestly at Asuma. Although he could tease Asuma a bit more to cause emotional fluctuations and gain some chakra, Kakashi hated trouble. Kakashi believed he couldn't intentionally toy with someone's genuine feelings for his own benefit. Moreover, the old horse in front of him wasn't someone Kakashi disliked. Kakashi preferred to let things happen naturally. Really? Asuma looked at Kakashi with suspicion, but he subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. Really, I'm broke because of forging my sword. Kakashi honestly stated that he was penniless. So for the sake of your love, please treat me to meals from now on. You're quite frank, I'll treat you to meals for a while. Don't bother Yuhai. After all, she's a girl. Asuma's reply made Kakashi's eyes curve into crescents. He immediately patted the guy's shoulder and said, In that case, I won't be polite. Who treated him didn't matter. Anyway, one of this couple would have to treat him to meals. And Asuma was the third Hokage's son, so money was no problem for him. Hey Kakashi. Asuma had no objection to treating Kakashi to meals, but now he adopted a hesitant, awkward posture, which made Kakashi feel a chill. What is it? Kakashi subtly took a step back. Well, do you know how to win a girl's heart? After all, you've always been quite popular with girls. Asuma stammered. From childhood, Kakashi had always been popular with girls. Even during his short time at the Ninja Academy, the girls there were infatuated with Kakashi. What's more, Kakashi now found his mask cumbersome and simply showed his true face. This made Asuma, who secretly loved Kurenai Yuhai, quite envious. This. Kakashi scratched his head, then hesitantly sized up Asuma and asked uncertainly. Could it be because Asuma isn't as handsome as I am? Kakashi's hesitant words left Asuma frozen in place. With just this face, if he abandoned his scruples, Kakashi could thrive. But the truth of Kakashi's words truly broke Asuma's heart. If it were other aspects, he could still work hard, but when it came to looks, he was truly powerless. Yet even so, damn it, do you think Yuhai is that shallow? He, Asuma, would never give up. Yuhai is certainly not like that. Kakashi felt it necessary to speak up for his previous meal ticket. Asuma still needs to work hard. Patting Asuma's shoulder, Kakashi was already planning to leave. There was simply too much to do today. Discharged from the hospital, visiting graves, encountering Uchiha Abido, the Hokage questioning, asking the ninja cat to forge a sword. Kakashi felt a bit exhausted and had no interest in advising Asuma on his romantic life. Old horse, remember to bring breakfast to my house at 8 tomorrow morning. Kakashi waved his hand, completely unconcerned about Asuma, who was still racking his brain on how to win Kurenai Yuhai's affection. Old horse. When did he get such a nickname? Don't just give people nicknames, you bastard. Asuma stomped his feet in anger, watching Kakashi's retreating back. The next day, when Kurenai Yuhai arrived excitedly at the Hatake residence with breakfast in hand, the smile on her face froze slightly. Asuma, what are you doing here? Kurenai looked a bit resentfully at the two people sitting on the wooden floor of the veranda, enjoying their breakfast. I will. Faced with Kurenai's somewhat displeased tone, Asuma seemed a little flustered. Asuma invited me over for a meal after he heard I was broke. Isn't that right, Asuma? As Kakashi spoke, he dropped a dumpling into the dog bowl beneath the veranda. A small Sharpei wearing a vest and a Konoha headband emerged from under the veranda and gobbled up the dumpling in the bowl in one bite. Yeah, that's exactly it. Asuma nodded quickly upon hearing this. Kurenai pouted, glaring at the two guys who had obviously conspired ahead of time. Kurenai Yuhai's emotions fluctuated +1. Chakra +1%. Asuma Sarutobai's emotions fluctuated +1. Chakra +1%. Current chakra 149%. Sensing the notification in his mind, Kakashi felt a bit satisfied. Even without doing anything to draw attention, he was naturally approaching 3 times his usual chakra reserves. Uchiha Abido had been indispensable in this. Besides him, Might Guy and Kurenai Yuhai had also contributed a lot. That said, compared to Naruto's 100-fold chakra, he still had a long way to go. It was worth noting that Naruto, that chakra powerhouse, still had 4 times the chakra even under the suppression of Yamato's wood release. On that front, Kakashi could only sigh that comparisons were odious. But speaking of Naruto, Kakashi chewed his food slowly, thinking about his sensei's son. Should he find some time to visit him? While Kakashi pondered this, Kurenai Yuhai, wearing a displeased expression, kicked off her shoes and squeezed in between them, mimicking Kakashi and Asuma. With a huff, she set the takeout breakfast down between the two of them and said through somewhat gritted teeth, "Let me join you." Even Kakashi, who had no interest in romantic entanglements, could tell from her tone that the beautiful girl was quite upset right now. Kakashi and Asuma exchanged a glance, tacitly choosing to stay silent. They casually picked up the rice balls Kurenai had brought and started eating them. "Wolf, if you can't finish, you can give it to me." Paku scratched at the wooden floor with his 2 paws, his eyes fixed on the unfinished dumplings from Kakashi and Asuma. "Here, eat up." Kakashi thoughtfully dumped the remaining dumplings from his bowl into Paku's dog bowl. Asuma did the same. Watching Paku wolf down his food, Kakashi felt a twinge of regret. Compared to Kurenai's rice balls, he actually preferred the dumplings. But if he fed the rice balls she'd brought to Paku right in front of her, he'd probably lose this meal ticket. Does Kakashi have any plans for today? During the oddly quiet breakfast, Kurenai couldn't hold back and broke the silence first. "I plan to go find Shizune." Her crimson eyes narrowed slightly without her realizing it, carrying an inexplicable meaning. To ask if there are any precautions after the eye replacement. This was a lie. His main purpose was to find Shizune and ask her to keep the fact that he had Rin's eyes a secret. Kakashi glanced at Kurenai as he finished his rice ball in a few bites. I see, and after that, Kurenai felt an inexplicable sense of relief. Asuma will join me for some rehab training. Hearing Kakashi mention him, Asuma blinked in confusion. Is that so? Kurenai looked at Asuma. Yeah, exactly. Asuma swallowed the rice ball in his mouth and nodded quickly. I could join Kakashi for rehab training too. Never mind, let Asuma handle it. The girl pouted, speaking with a hint of uncertainty. But halfway through, she realized she wasn't confident she could keep up with Kakashi's training. Even if Kakashi hadn't fully recovered, she wouldn't be his match. Plus, she was a Genjutsu-type ninja, and Taijutsu was her weak point. Rehab training mainly involved getting a body that hadn't moved in days back into action. Kakashi was always efficient. After a simple breakfast, he headed to the hospital and was lucky enough to run into Shizune, who was just about to start her shift. After exchanging a few words with her, Kakashi got straight to the point. Shizune didn't ask too many questions. She simply gave Kakashi an okay gesture. No problem at all. All ninjas had their own secrets, and Kakashi's Sharingan was pretty much common knowledge. That Sharingan, which was always active, had suddenly turned into a normal black eye. If they encountered an enemy who didn't know the inside story, whether Kakashi had fully mastered the Sharingan or lost it could tip the scales in battle. So Shizune understood completely. You've been a big help. I'll treat you to a meal sometime, Shizune. Kakashi chuckled in thanks. Isn't Kakashi broke right now? Does that mean Kakashi treats but I pay? Shizune teased Kakashi with a playful smile. Ah well. So Shizune knows too. Kakashi felt a bit awkward. He, of course. Kurenai complained to me about it last night, you know, Tilda. Shizune looked at the embarrassed Kakashi, chuckled, patted his shoulder and continued. I won't tease you anymore, Kakashi. As for the meal, forget it. After all, your main goal right now is to adapt to fighting without the Sharingan as quickly as possible. I'll get back to work now. You should head back soon too, Kakashi. Bye. Watching the girl disappear down the hospital corridor with light steps, Kakashi smiled helplessly. Seriously, he hadn't expected Kurenai to tell Shizune about his embarrassing broke situation. But it didn't matter. The eye issue was taken care of. Next up was getting back into his old sword skills and pushing hard in that direction. Asuma was already waiting for Kakashi at the hospital entrance. Now seeing Kakashi come out, he strolled over with his hands in his pockets. So find a spot. Kakashi nodded slightly in response. Although Asuma's strength wasn't on par with Might Guy's, he was still outstanding among their peers. As an opponent for these 3 days of rehab training, he'd be plenty. By the time he retrieved his sword in 3 days, he should be almost fully recovered. Then Might Guy could be his sparring partner to get reacquainted with his old sword techniques. He just hoped Might Guy wouldn't get all fired up yelling about youth and open the 8 gates on him. Otherwise, his current body really couldn't take it. As for Naruto, he'd find a chance to visit him later.